Hey coach, welcome to your bonus video addressing common client issues. Today is also the last day for building your life coach biz in 7 days. Today, we're going to talk all about different client situations that can come up. These are all situations that I've personally dealt with over the years. I've seen a lot of my clients deal with as well, and also a lot of new coaches that I've trained. Some of these things may happen to you or they may not happen to you, but it's always best to be prepared and remember that you can always return back to this video as things come up in the future. So I have all kinds of different scenarios that we're going to go through today, but there is a formula that my business partner, Monica Hutchinson, came up with. Her and I are the co-founders of Fearless Public Speaking, and we work with business owners and coaches just like yourself to confidently navigate difficult conversations. And this formula can work on any type of situation that we're going to go over today. It can also work on other types of situations in your personal relationships, or maybe if you have a day job with your coworkers or your boss. So I want you to use this formula as much as possible. So there's 3 steps to this formula on how to navigate difficult conversations with someone. And the first step is to always acknowledge a person. If you start out with acknowledgement, it is like a beautiful buffer and a cushion that sets you up for success for anything that you're going to say after that. And the person really comes from a place of wanting to respect you and to work with you. So starting out with acknowledgement of saying something along the lines of, hey, thank you so much for taking the time to be here. I know that you're incredibly busy. And so the fact that you took 20 minutes out of your day to work through this situation with me shows me that you are so committed to this relationship. Right? Doesn't that feel good? It feels good for me to say, and it's going to feel good for the other person to hear as well, to be witnessed and acknowledged like that. Step 2 of this formula is to remember to use I statements when speaking with someone. You never want to point fingers or start off a statement with, you did this. That is going to make a person feel very defensive. They're going to shut down, and you're not going to be able to have a productive conversation. And the third step of this formula is to invite the person to be part of the solution with you. Do not take on full responsibility to have to fix something yourself. So what that can sound like is, I want to resolve this with you. How can we resolve this together? And it's just like in a coaching session where you're honoring your client as the expert. You're doing the same exact thing here. And people get really excited. They want to co-create. They want to be a part of the solution. And then when you invite them to do that with you, they're so much more excited to stick with it because they came up with the ideas themselves. All right, so that is the 3-part formula to navigate any type of difficult conversation that you have with your client. So start off by acknowledging them, staying away from you statements and using I statements, and then also inviting them to be part of the solution. Let's break down some different types of scenarios that can come up as you're working with your clients. And remember, this can show up in a pro bono client or for a paying client. Okay, the first situation is that your client is asking for a refund. And they might be asking for a refund because they feel like the coaching isn't working, or they're not feeling a connection with you, or maybe there's a change in their financial situation, or maybe there's another different reason. So first of all, I would recommend in your contract putting that you don't take refunds. So I think that's a really important thing to start out with. And then second of all, you want to make sure that you're not addressing these types of situations on a paid coaching call. That is their time. So if this comes up, I would set aside 20 minutes to have a separate conversation with them so you can just focus on this topic. And then once you get on the phone with them, always start out by hearing their version of the story first. Don't just come in and assume anything. So that can sound something like, remember, start off by acknowledging them. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here. I know that you're asking for a refund. I want to just hear from you. What's going on for you? You know, what has you asking for a refund at this time? Also, another important tip to remember is to not start those powerful questions off with why. If you say, why are you asking for a refund? That can make people feel really defensive. So if you start off with saying, what has you asking for a refund? It feels less invasive and intrusive, and it's going to open up the conversation so much better. So then you're going to hear their side of the story. And again, you just want to provide that active listening and be really open-minded. And remember, most of the time people need to be heard and seen and acknowledged. And a lot of times that's going to fix everything. So I've seen this work so many times with my own clients where they create some type of scenario or story in their head. And just by me getting on the phone with them for a little bit and hearing them out, they end up feeling so much better. And the original thing that they came to the call with, they're like, oh, actually, it doesn't even bother me anymore. So really that is the secret sauce to all of these different types of situations we're going to go through, is just taking the time to really hear and see and acknowledge the person in front of you, and most things will be taken care of. So going back to the person who wants a refund, remember that it's important to honor your boundaries as well. If you have this language in your contract that you don't give refunds, you need to stick with that. And you don't want to be a pushover or people pleaser and just say, oh yeah, of course, here's your money back. Don't do that. Okay. So it's really important to honor your contract and to let them know that as well on the call. And to say, and that's where you can invite them to be a part of the solution and, say, well, listen, you committed to this contract, and when you signed it, you were aware that there was no refunds. But what I hear you saying is, and then come in with the thing that they are upset about, and then invite them to be a part of that solution by saying, I want to resolve this with you. How can we resolve this together? And giving them the opportunity to come up with some ideas first. If they don't have any ideas, if someone really doesn't want to work with you, you can give the option to get out of the contract as long as they're all paid up for the services rendered. So I have done this a couple times where halfway through the contract, they just don't want to continue on with coaching anymore. And so if it's a 6-month contract and we just did 3 months and they're all paid up, they paid the 3 months, then I give them sometimes the option to just end the contract from there, or to pause it. Maybe something happened, a big life change, maybe someone passed away or they had a change in their career status. You can always end the contract, or you can put it on pause. So again, you're going to be the ultimate decision maker here. There's really no right or wrong way to do this, but you do have to let someone have the option to get out of the contract. And I do have language in my contract as well that if they provide in writing 30 days before their next payment, if they want to leave the coaching relationship, they do have that option to do that. So again, I need to make sure that I'm honoring my own boundaries and my own terms, but also showing up to work with the person based off where they're at as well. Okay, the next situation is someone's credit card payment didn't go through and now they're ghosting you. I actually do not like this situation whatsoever, because my thing I'm going to say is schedule a 20-minute phone call with them, get them on the phone to talk about what's going on. But if they are not responding back to you, you can't get on the phone with them. So basically what you're going to do is you're just going to keep emailing them. And I would suggest email, don't do Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp or however you were contacting them. You want to keep this professional, and you want to keep a track record of the way you're contacting about the situation. So if you have rendered services to someone and they're essentially not paying you, you need to keep contacting them until they respond to you. And you might have to get a little bit more tough love on this situation and not just say, hey, your credit card payment didn't go through. Let me know what's going on. You want to be a little bit more direct with someone and say, hey, your credit card payment didn't go through. We need to have a conversation around this. I need you to respond back to me by X amount of time to let me know that you got this message. Again, you need to be a little bit more direct here and to let them know that this is a serious matter. You're running a business and that they need to honor the contract that they signed with the payment schedule that they agreed to. If someone is not responding back to you, they are just completely ignoring and avoiding you, you can always send them to collections. I haven't done this yet, but just so you know, this is an option that you can do. Okay, our next situation is the client is showing up late to calls or they're canceling at the last minute. And when I say last minute, I mean like within less than 24 hours notice, or they are not showing up at all to the calls. Now, again, this is not okay for someone to do this, because if they are doing this to you, this means that they probably have this pattern and this habit of doing this to other people in other areas of their lives. And remember, people come to a coaching relationship to create change and to create new habits and new patterns for themselves. So again, this is where you can create that 20-minute call with them. Don't do this, don't address this on the next coaching call, but just be direct with them. And you're going to use that 3-step process that we talked about. You're going to acknowledge them, you're going to use I statements, and you're going to invite them to be a part of the solution. And you're just going to say something along the lines of like, hey, I noticed that you've been canceling a lot of our calls at the last minute within less than 24 hours. Notice in my contract, I have a policy saying that you need to notify me with at least 24 hours or more. So, as a way to respect my time and your time, this is what we need to do about this situation. Again, just be direct and be honest and be upfront, but also come from this place of love at the same time. And that's going to invite someone to really be able to hear you and to want to examine their own behavior as well. And, powerful question you can ask is, where else is this showing up in your life right now? Where else are you consistently showing up late? Or where else are you canceling on someone at the last minute? And you can do a little bit of coaching here and to help them to have this powerful breakthrough of like, oh shit, wow, I didn't even realize I've been doing this to people. So again, the things that show up in a coaching relationship can be really powerful because it's probably happening elsewhere for them. And it's your job as a coach to notice these patterns and behaviors and to lovingly call them out. Okay, the next situation is that your client is uncoachable. And what do I mean by uncoachable? They are showing up as victim, they are resistant, they are complaining, they are in constant breakdown. You just feel like these sessions are going nowhere, right? They are not hearing you, they are not walking away with any mindset changes or learning new things about themselves. They are just basically kind of like could be using you as like a girlfriend to bitch and complain and vent, or they just don't want to find solutions. And this is a huge problem because you're there to coach someone. And if someone isn't coachable, the relationship isn't working. And it might be that they need to work with a therapist. Maybe there's too much trauma, or that you need to lovingly call them out. I've had to do this with a past client. She just wanted to complain the entire time. And so again, we set up an additional 20-minute call, and I was honest with her and I was like, listen, every time we get on the call, I feel like you just want to complain about your husband. And I really want to help you to find a solution around this. This is why you hired me, is to have a better, loving relationship in marriage. And by me saying that, she had a complete breakdown. She just started crying and she was like, oh my gosh, this is the exact thing that my mom does and the way my mom treats my dad. And so she ended up thanking me so much for helping her to see this in a new light and to take the time to have this conversation with her. And then after that, we had so many amazing productive coaching sessions together, but it just took me noticing that and creating the sacred space and container to have this empowered conversation based off what I was seeing. Okay, our next situation is that you are more motivated than the client to get results. This is never, ever going to work. You cannot want something more than your client wants it for themselves. And the situation where this might come up is at the end where you guys are creating your action plan together and they're creating goals. You might be coming in with your own ideas and your own thoughts and suggestions. And you might say, oh my gosh, you should totally do this. You should start a business around this, or you should read this book or this. And you can tell if someone's not that into it because they might be like, yeah, okay, maybe I'll try, I'll think about it, right? They're using all this language that is showing they're really not excited or commit to it. And so again, we always have to make sure that we're giving our client the opportunity to come up with their own ideas because they're much more likely going to stick with them versus us telling them what to do. And also pay attention to when they are goal setting with you, listen to their energy and pay attention to their voice. And this is a thing as a coach is you have to listen and pay attention to what is not being said. And if you ask them like, okay, what do you want to commit to doing this week? And they're like, well, I guess I should probably get to the gym and start working out. This is the opportunity to speak up and say something and say, is that something you really want? It just doesn't sound like you're that excited to go to the gym this week. Is there something else that you would want to do instead that feels better? And this is where you get to get curious and play detective a little bit and use your coaching skills to help them figure out what's really going on. So again, you want them to be really motivated and excited for the things that they're committing to. And again, make sure that you are not pushing the client to do things that they're not ready for or that they don't want to do, and you are not leading with your own agenda. The next situation is the client is not taking your advice or they're not following through with your advice. And this goes back to what we were just saying about the last scenarios. You're more motivated than your client. Remember, coaching is not about us telling someone what to do or how to live their life. That is such a block to communication and misses the whole concept of coaching, of honoring someone as the expert. So I hear a lot of coaches say this, and I used to say this as a new coach too, and I'm like, I keep telling my client to do this and they're not doing it. So if you ever find yourself thinking or saying that, you have to remember, whoa, I stepped completely out of the coaching role and I need to get back to being a coach. And so being a coach is asking the client, what is it that you want to do? What do you want to talk about today? What do you want to commit to doing? Again, asking them what they need from you. And then if someone says, this actually goes into another different type of scenario. If you are constantly asking someone, what do you want to focus on today? And they keep saying, I don't know. Then that's also an opportunity for, first of all, you can call them out there before just coming in with your own advice. Okay, so you can say something along the lines of, well, what if you pretend that you did know? Then what would you say? Give them an opportunity to answer first. And if they're still just really stuck, then maybe that's where you say, hey, I actually have a few ideas. Is it okay if I share those ideas with you? Again, ask for permission before you come in with that advice. Okay, our next situation is the client doesn't follow through with their commitments. So how are you going to know they didn't follow through with their commitments? Well, on the coaching session, when you do their check-in after their wins and you ask, how did last week go? And you look back at their notes and you say, okay, you committed to this and this and this. And they're like, oh, I didn't do it. Or if you do some spot coaching and you do a check-in with them before their next session, you say, hey, how's it going? I know you said that you wanted me to text you to make sure you went to the gym this week. And they're like, oh, I didn't go. Then that's where you can decide, are you going to address it there? Or are you going to wait till the next coaching session? But when you're addressing it, don't start off with, why didn't you do this? Remember why we talked about that? It's going to cause someone to be defensive. So and to guard themselves. So don't start off with why. Ask them, what has you not doing X, Y, and Z? Start off with that what question. And if they're like, oh, I don't know. And that's where you can come in and you can say, you told me that this was a priority for you last week, or this is why you hired me, is to start putting your needs first. So, we need to figure out how to make this more of a priority for you and to stop putting your own needs aside. Again, you want to show up, you want to do a little bit more of the tough love here and the high gradiency type of coaching, and to stand for what they want and to not just say, oh, okay, yeah, that's no big deal. I know you said you wanted this, but it's all right, whatever. Let's just focus on what's next. No, you want to hold them accountable and to lovingly stand to help them create for what they said that they wanted to create when they hired you. Okay, our last situation for today is the client is showing up all over the place on the call and they won't let you talk. They are just constantly nonstop talking and you can't even get a word in. I have this happen all the time. And a reason why this is happening a lot of times is sometimes people use this as a protective mechanism. They find that if they constantly talk, then the coach can't come in and say anything, and then they don't have to listen what the coach has to say. Or, they can just continue to stay stuck because they know that if they give the opportunity for the coach to speak, they're going to have to create change. And a lot of times people might not know that they're doing something like this. So this is where you're going to lovingly bottom line or interrupt the client. If they're coming in at 1,000,000 miles an hour on your phone call and they're like, so you're like, hey, how's it going? Thanks so much for being here today. And they're like, oh my gosh, this happened and this happened. And then, I was driving and then this person yelled at me and this and this and this. And they just have all these stories. And it's just, that's where you need to say, hey, listen, hold on. Can I get your attention? Almost like you're talking like a little kid, right? Like, hey, I'm over here. And you might need to do a breathing and grounding meditation or exercise with them first. And, just invite them to that and say, hey, I just noticed you seem really stressed. You seem a little bit all over the place. Is it okay if we take a couple breaths together before we get started? And most of the time they're going to be like, yeah, of course. And that you can really feel someone's energy shift and change there. Or if someone is still after that, they're just going off on all these different tangents and you feel like you don't even remember what the original request was. One of my favorite questions is, hey, I want to jump in here. Thank you so much for everything you just shared. How does this relate back to your original request? And again, that's like a cue for them. Oh, yeah, wow, I got really sidetracked. I got really off over here. Again, it's your job as coach to help keep them focused and bring them back to center, and that to help everything to be focused around what that original request was. Another question I like to ask is, what stood out for you in everything you just shared? Right? Because it's not my job to address all these different types of things. I want them to see the common underlying theme of if they just went off in a tangent. And again, this is going to help them to have the breakthrough and come up with their own solution versus the coach trying to come in and say, well, based off what you're saying, this, and this, it sounds like this. You want them to figure that out for themselves. All right, that's it. Congratulations, you did it. You completed the Build Your Life Coaching Biz in 7 Days course. You must be so proud of yourself right now. I'm so honored that you decided to hire me as your coach and to take me on this journey with you. So what are next steps from here? I would love for you to leave a review on my Facebook page. This would mean so much for me and my coaching business and to help others see what's possible for them to create. So if you go to the bottom part of this page, you'll see the link where you can go over and leave a review. And I created a little guide if you need help on what to say. And then on top of that, I want to invite us to keep working together. If you really connected with my energy, you got so much value from this course, then let's keep it going. Can you imagine what's going to be possible when we actually work together one-on-one? It's going to be beautiful. So there's a link down below for you to schedule a complimentary 30-minute discovery call with me. And I will encourage you to do that sooner rather than later. Now, remember, I've been working on building my life coaching business for over 5 years now. I've worked with hundreds of different types of coaches and female entrepreneurs, and I can help you to get the results that you need sooner rather than later. I know that you want to be hiring clients. I know that you want to be making money from this career. I know that you want to be creating new offers and confidently putting yourself out there, inviting people to work with you. And I'm going to let you know that I can help you to get results so much quicker than probably if you try to do it on your own. Now, are you capable of doing it on your own? Absolutely, 100%. But when you're paired and matched with the right coach, and it just feels good, right? It feels good in your body, in your intuition. That is when magic happens. And that is when we can get shit done and we can get you the results that you want to create. And I'm just going to let you know, I would not be where I am at today if I had not said yes to working with the right coaches over the years. You have to remember that sometimes we can only push ourselves so far outside our own comfort zones, or if there's still missing skills or knowledge that we need with coaching and with running a business, why not learn from someone who's done it before us and who's ready to help us? And it's a beautiful thing to bring in more support as well, and to feel like you deserve support too. I've had so many people say, well, I just feel like I need to do it on my own. You do not need to do it on your own. And I don't want you to do it on your own. I want to work with you. And if you're worried about the money, if you're worried about the investment, we can co-create something together, something that works for both of us. So again, I want to invite you to click on that discovery link below, set up a call with me so we can meet and chat, and we can figure out what your goals are for your coaching business and how to create a feel-good plan so that way you feel so successful and you feel so good with building your first coaching business. All right, that's it. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure, and cheers to you and all the clients and all the money that you're going to make from this amazing career choice.